Around the world, conversations about LGBTQ rights, and especially trans rights, are increasingly pulled into politics, ideology, and culture wars. But in some countries, these debates are not abstract. They shape whether people can safely work, rent a home, access healthcare, walk down the street, or simply exist openly. Uganda is currently living under one of the harshest anti-LGBTQ legal environments in the world. The country's Anti-Homosexuality Act introduced life imprisonment for same-sex relations alongside some of the most aggressive anti-LGBTQ provisions globally. Today's conversation is about what it means to navigate that reality as trans men in Uganda. I'm joined by two extraordinary guests. Jay Mulucha is one of the most visible trans men activists in East Africa. He is the founder of Femme Alliance Uganda, a founding member and former chair of Trans Network Uganda, and has worked extensively on trans rights, HIV advocacy, community protection, and sports inclusion. He has spoken internationally about the realities facing trans communities in Uganda, including at the International AIDS Conference. And William Apako is Executive Director of Trans Network Uganda, one of the country's leading organizations advocating for trans and gender diverse communities. His work spans legal advocacy, healthcare access, institutional reform and public health governance, including representation within Uganda's global fund structures. Thank you both so much for being here. Let's start by setting the scene. What is the legal reality in Uganda today?
Thank you so much, David, for the introduction. As Jem Lucha, I'm grateful to be part of this conversation. I'll start by saying the reality is that LGBTQ people in Uganda live under constant fear, and not only because of society, but because the law itself encourages hostility. The 2023 Anti-Homosexuality Act created an atmosphere where queer people are treated as criminals simply for existing. Even beyond arrests, the law has made discrimination feel justified in everyday life. And for the case of trans persons or transgender and gender diverse persons, the situation is even more complicated because many Ugandans still do not understand what being trans means. And this is even within the LGBT community. People often see us as immoral, mentally sick, or pretending, and that misunderstanding creates danger for us to access a lot of services, like in schools, hospitals, workplaces, churches, and even inside our families. And politically, LGBTQ people are often used as a tool. Leaders speak about us as if we are a threat to culture or religion. So the law is not it's not just legal. It becomes emotionally and socially permission for people to hate us openly.
Was there a moment when you felt personally the atmosphere in Uganda shift?
Yes. I think many of us felt a major shift during the public debate around the Anti-Homosexuality Act in 2023. Before that, life was already difficult, but there were still small spaces where people could breathe quietly, do our things privately. Yes, the disturbance was there. We were not safe, but at least life was moving on well. And then suddenly politicians, television programs, churches, and social media were all speaking about LGBT people every day as enemies of the country or enemies of Uganda. It felt like the country became emotionally charged against us overnight, just in a snap. So it was a very difficult moment. You could sense more fear in the community. People stopped attending gatherings. Some left the country and went to a neighboring country to seek refugee. And some left social media. Others fled from their homes. It felt like survival became the main focus instead of simply living.
Williams?
And like Jay said, whereas most of the people see these laws as political, but these laws don't stay in parliament. These laws affect us directly in our homes, in our partners' relationships, in the schools that most of the LGBT people go to, in the markets, and even at the homes that we rent. Because most of these laws are debated at the political and democratic spaces, but most of the times them using key political leaders like Robert Chagulanyi as an example for soliciting funds to promote homosexuality in the country is really quite wanting. But like Jay says, even from the time when the NGO bill, me and Jay were outed in the NGO bill for promoting homosexuality because of trying to register it as an NGO, trying to register rather Trans Network Uganda as an NGO. We were outed in the papers, inclusive even the donors that protect us and even support us. So that means that, like Jay have said, we live in quite unwavering kind of environment where for us it's political. In the country they take it political, but for us it affects us directly, even in our day-to-day lives. Even as simple as accessing medical health care, it has become a very political space at the moment.
Can both of you please, therefore, on this note, share one experience with us of discrimination, danger, or humiliation even that captures the life that you are describing, what life can look like for trans people and especially trans men in Uganda today?
Yeah. One painful thing about being trans and living as a trans person in Uganda is that humiliation becomes very public. You know, as trans people, we are the faces of the gay community. So humiliation becomes very public. Sometimes people stare at you, laugh at you, film you, or loudly question your body in public spaces. And I remember a moment where I felt reduced to an object instead of a human being. This really was hurtful, where strangers believed they had the right to touch me, insult me, or interrogate me simply because I looked different from what they expected. And these kinds of activities usually lead to collective and corrective rape. I don't know if you understand me when I say collective and corrective rape.
Can you elaborate on that, please?
And this kind of thing mostly happens to trans men, where people always question whether they are men or women. So in the process of finding out who they are, of course, they are humiliated, ashamed, undressed, touched, and that leads to collective rape, like a gang of people raping a person. And then collective rape is where a person maybe comes to you and they know that you were born biologically female, but they feel that you're not doing the right thing, you're not being a female. So they forcefully rape you to correct you to be that, to be like a woman who they want. So
Yes.
that's collective and corrective rape. So that has been a very, very dangerous thing where most of our people have been raped. And what hurts me most is not only the danger itself, but the feeling that nobody will protect you because society already decided you are less worthy. I'll give a simple story about me and William. There is a time, because we have been long-time friends, we have played basketball together. We have served the community together. So we have gone through a lot as friends. So there is journalists who came from Germany and they wanted to interview us. So they came, they interviewed us, and after that, the journalist, she was a lady, she requested that we go out and have fun. So we went to a place in Kampala. It's a rugby club place. And we were with her and having fun, just enjoying our evening. And suddenly, out of the blue, there was group of rugby players that were just next to us, sitting near, close to us. But from out of the blue, one of them started attacking William. And they came to us and started questioning us why we are sitting with this beautiful lady, why we are taking their women, and so on. So a fight erupted, and they beat us so much. They beat William so much, and they took him somewhere. They closed him inside, and they also started insulting me and beating me. Then chaos was all over. So the owner of that place called the police to come. When the police came, instead of apprehending or arresting the people who beat us, who caused chaos to us, they arrested us, me and William, and took us at the police station. And yet, these people caused problems to us. They beat us. We were all bleeding. The situation was really bad. They never even cared when they saw us in that situation, not even giving us an opportunity of saying that you go and seek health services. They didn't think about that. They just threw us inside the cells. And that thing really was so bad because, and this has happened to many different people. Instead of apprehending or arresting the people who cause danger to us, they instead turn to us and arrest us.
William, do you also want to share a story that affected you particularly?
I think the story is one of the most breaking story because me and Jay managed to try and sue the Uganda Human Rights Commission for not coming in. We tried to work with the human rights organizations and so that we sue the police, but because of the political environment we're working in, everybody is trying to protect and safeguard their gains. So much as we're violated and humiliated in a very inhuman and degrading manner, we really put ourselves down and try to fight for the human rights of the trans and gender diverse persons. And I would relate relatively when I and Jay tried to even help trans people who were corrected with the corrective sort of rep, and a situation that they use. I don't even know what they mean by corrective rep because why do you correct somebody who doesn't really feel like they are wrong and they need to be corrected? So in that situation, we even try to seek reproductive rights. We try to seek sexual and reproductive health care support, but we couldn't even get or reproductive health care support to this transgender person. So you live in an environment where you have to justify yourself, where you have to explain who you are all the time for them to understand who you are before they actually offer even a service to you. So as they mentioned, I was personally totally sidelined and they asked to check my entire body to ascertain whether I'm female or male during that attack. And in that situation, they didn't know what cell to put me, whether I should go to the male cell or the female cell. And in that regard, I was really thrown in a small room with Jay, but they continued humiliating us while, pointing all the fingers at us, while, using all the justifications to make us feel like we're not human enough.
Thank you for sharing those stories. And once again, it's heartbreaking to hear what you went through. The LGBT community in general, but the trans community specifically in Africa, is often described by politicians and religious leaders as representing Western values or foreign influence. What goes through your mind when you hear that, given especially the experiences that you have lived and have just described to us?
I will say maybe before Jay comes in, that is a norm that is not true and it's propounded by the political wing. As Ugandans, we think that LGBT people have existed even time memorial. You can see in the Baganda kingdom, there was a situation and arrangement where there was a king who was practicing homosexuality. But these are things that are privately not mentioned, and I don't want to mention names. So I would say that this is not a new norm. It's something that we've lived within for a very long time. Personally, being LGBTI wasn't taught, I wasn't told. I woke up being like this. I woke up feeling different from anybody else. And even myself, I kept questioning from childhood what I am until when I grew to read books, to interact with people who are like me, to find activists from different worlds, from different spaces who identify like me. And definitely I had to double check and say, oh, look here, I think I'm human enough and I need to really do everything possible to stay and survive in this environment as a human being.
What frustrates me is that our existence is treated as foreign, yet we are Africans ourselves. We were born here, we grew up here in Africa, we speak these languages, belong to these families, and share the same culture. Being transgender is not something imported from the West. What is often imported are the political narratives and the moral panic used to attack LGBTQ people. Because as far as actually what they should say that we learned this from our parents' womb. And they should stop saying that it's a Western thing. Because as William said, as far as I got to understand who I was, I had never traveled to any Western country. I had never known, I didn't even know any LGBT organization by then. I didn't know what a trans was by then. But I was what I was at that time because I didn't know what a trans person was like until I got to age 17, 18. That is when I started knowing, oh, there is a trans person. There are people who are like me. So this is not something that is imported and it shouldn't be said like that. As William said, we have known different big leaders in our culture who have been gay long before even we were born. We have the kings, we have the chiefs, all that, we found it here. So how do they say that it's something imported or learned from the Western? When leaders say we are an African, they erase our humanity and our history. African LGBTQ people have always existed. Many just survived silently because visibility was dangerous, because they could be easily attacked.
In environments like these, Williams, how do you create joy and ordinary life inside this reality of real, incredible psychological, emotional, and physical pressure, borderline torture?
Often we've lived our lives where it's been through suffering and crying and of course blaming ourselves and of course hating yourself to the maximum. But in reality, it's not only tears, it's also some little moments of joy because people work as collectives, people work as families. And at the moment, we as the LGBT communities have embraced love. We work within ourselves. We cry to each other. When it comes to solving matters of national interest, we come together and deliberate our issues as one. We work with human rights organizations and law firms who are accepting to LGBTI persons. We have also some, of course, right-wing government people who, of course, are supporting and working with us, but privately. But in reality, it's not only tears and pain, but it's some moments of joy where you find that from families, from the connections as communities, we find spaces where we deliberate and work together and celebrate our humanity. And like Jay has said, that homosexuality to us is not an African. Homosexuality to us as the people seen as homosexuals is not illegal. We exist in this skin and we feel that this skin is who we are. That's why you see that no matter the situation, Jay and I have refused to run out of Uganda for asylum because we tell ourselves every day, if we do leave Uganda, who will stay? If everybody runs out of this country to go and exist in a different country, who will stay? So for us with Jay, it's beyond even the pains we go through. We live and exist and smile, no matter the situation, because for us resistance is much better than silence. And we are here to resist, to stay, and we're not going anywhere. And that's all I'll say.
That was precisely my next question. Given everything that you've both lived through, what is it that keeps you staying, resisting, and still imagining a future in Uganda?
I'll just back up what William just said, and that's me and William. That's our motto. If everyone leaves, who else is going to stay? and stand strong and face the challenges that LGBT community people face. If everyone leaves, what about the young who are being born? What about the ones who are not yet there? What are they going to do? Who are they going to be standing with strong to support them? So we feel like living is not an option, but standing together and fighting together and resisting together and educating, sensitizing people about the LGBT community is the best. So that's what keeps us moving, with hope that one day,
And
one time, things will get better. Because even in other countries that have better laws that support the LGBT community, of course, it didn't come just in a snapshot like this. They stood strong, they fought, they went through a lot until they achieved or got what they want. At least they have something somewhere. So us living is not an option, because when I joined this community, the LGBT community, things weren't the way they are right now. By then, people didn't know the LGBT community. They didn't know the difference between a trans, a gay person, a lesbian. So we believe if we continue standing together and doing this kind of work, I think one day, one time, we shall get to where we want to be.
Thank you, Jay. Williams?
for me, basically for me, activists gives purpose and meaning to my life. Honestly, working without a purpose and a vision and a goal in life, that doesn't really mean anything, because I see so many people who are so-called straight without a purpose, without a sense of direction. But for us as activists, we speak for reality, we speak for mind change, we speak for love, and we speak for togetherness. And that's all what we need to promote, even a political or democratic space or political or civic kind of environment. Like Jess says, honestly, today I can't live beyond the person I am, because even as I sit at a highly political space at the country coordinating mechanism of Global Fund, I speak with people from the Ministry of Health, people from the Uganda AIDS Commission, people in the margin of 40 years and above to 60 to 80 years. They look at me like a child because I look small. They're very demeaning, first of all, very disrespectful. And I think I've never seen discrimination this time around as the second passing of the anti-homosexuality bill. Everyone became silent, from civil society to human rights organizations to government, because this second time of the passage meant you're going to be closed. And you've seen right now organizations like Nicholas Kepio's organization, Chapter for Uganda, being closed. We've seen organizations like the National Coalition for Human Rights Defenders being closed, simply for working for topics that our country feels to be immoral and unwanted. LGBTI persons largely depend on donor funding, and yet they're put in protection and safeguards on foreign funding. That means that for us, resistance is not anything to us. We are going to stay stronger. We are going to debate against this law. We are going to challenge any nuances, any new laws, and of course, policies that are going to be brought in place. And we shall tell them always that we are here, even in time memorial. Definitely for us, activism and speaking for our community is something that is a plus and is a non-negotiable.
Thank you for that. Is there, as we bring this to a close, is there anything else, a message, any final comment that you'd like to share with us? A call to action, perhaps.
Yes, we want a call to action so that these bills that really affect the LGBT community should be erased, because as we speak now, there is a bill that just passed, the sovereignty bill, and it's also going to affect our operation in the country. I know that the target wasn't exactly the LGBTQ community, but it's going to affect us heavily, because everything that is there is affecting our operation as NGOs. And once the government gets to know about our end, it's going to really, really affect us.
Mine, I think, will be to the global and regional networks. that Uganda is suffering currently a surge of new laws. So we ask for your support in all manners possible. We ask for collaboration. We ask for your partnership because our strength has been reliably on even foreigners beyond our own country. So for us, we are saying that we need your strength and partnership, collaboration, and of course, leadership to help us maneuver through this kind of moment.
Thank you, Jay and Williams. Thank you so much, not only for your activism, but for your honesty and generosity in this conversation. I, for one, cannot wait to come back to Uganda, and I look forward to meeting you in person soon. Thank you so much once again.
Thank you too.
Thank you so much, David.